Kalimera mamas. I thought I would jump on video, and you'll have to excuse this is not my strong point, but I thought I would get on and have a little bit of a talk about fabrics. As you can see in our albums, we have quite a lot of really good visual information about fabrics and what they do, but I thought I would go into this a little bit deeper to help people understand how fabrics work and how they affect your nappies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the first most common fabrics that you'll find in nappies, which is micro fleece. See, it's a soft synthetic fabric. You'll know it from things like jumpers, which is actually polo fleece, which is actually just a little bit different. So if you're actually looking to source micro fleece online, make sure you're looking at micro fleece and not polo fleece. This one is actually cut up to use as a liner. They're really effective as a liner. They're nice and soft against baby's skin, and they're not absorbent. Okay, so they're just basically used as a stay dry sort of barrier. They do have a slightly stay dry effect, which makes them ideal for nappy lining. The other most common fabric you'll find in nappy inserts is what's called micro fleece, and as you can see, it's very easily recognized by the texture of the material. Now, microfiber is also a man-made material, so it's a synthetic material, and it is designed in order to draw away moisture very quickly from when it's applied. So when your baby uses the nappy, it basically draws away the moisture very fast. This can't be put against baby's skin simply because of it's doing its job. It's drawing away moisture very quickly. It will actually take moisture from baby's skin, so it can leave you with things like rashes, which is not so nice. So this you'll find in inserts. The other thing is about microfiber, which is worth looking into when you are purchasing your nappies, is you'll often find with some of the Asian brands that won't tell you exactly what's in your nappy insert, that they will sell you what's called a bamboo insert, which just has a layer of bamboo terry on the top and actually has microfiber in the middle. This is a marketing ploy which they use quite a lot, and having been from the manufacturing and designing sphere, I can give you a little bit of insight into what actually goes into a nappy. And just a little bit of a divergent from fabrics and talking about cheap nappies. Now, I know like the initial upfront cost for mamas can be quite daunting, but essentially it's going to, in the long run, can save you up to 2/3, which is what you would pay on disposables. So whilst I'm not sort of banging the banner for those people who are struggling, and it is a much harder investment, even swapping out one nappy a day is significant and makes a significant difference to landfill. And not only that, but against your baby's skin. We are going to be putting together some graphics of the things that are actually in disposable nappies, but also the fact that it takes 500 years for these nappies to decompose, which means those nappies are still going to be kicking around 5 generations from now, which is kind of frightening when you think about that for your children. So like I said, even one nappy swap out a day is actually making a substantial difference. Now with your a lot of the brands that you'll see on places like AliExpress and Alibaba, you'll find a lot of cheap nappies which are promoted sort of for quick sale stash fillers. The small problem with these types of nappies is often they are made with cheap materials. As I was saying, they're often made with cheap materials, but you also have to consider what goes into a $2 or $3 nappy. Is a factory has overheads, they have material costs, they have advertising costs, and then they have the costs to hire the worker. So you have to think about how much is actually left over to pay that worker for what they're doing. And when you work it out, it's actually not much. And in places like China and some places in India, they are renowned for sweatshop kind of factories, which unfortunately leave families without actually being able to make ends meet a lot of the time, which contributes to the cycle of poverty. And I think most mamas really can feel the impact of trying to want to do the right thing, but it's actually somebody pays for it somewhere down the line. So where you've got a saving, somebody else has paid for that. So it's just something to think about when buying your nappies. I know it's startling when you look at the cost, but even a good quality nappy, which you're going to pay a bit more for, you can be a little bit more assured that, one, it's quality materials that have been used, and also that somebody's actually getting paid a livable wage on the other end. And that the other thing is with cheap nappies is that people often will try them being new to cloth nappies, not wanting to make a big investment, and then they don't work properly because they're made of cheap or defunct materials. So my advice there, if you're starting out, buy 1 or 2 really good quality nappies and just get yourself started there. And that way you've got more chance of success. You've got a lot more support, but you've got good quality materials and you've got more chances of having them work for you. And not only that, you can sell them on if they don't work for you and you want to try something else. They actually tend to hold their value quite well. Okay, so back to fabrics. I've covered microfiber and microfleece. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's called, they mark it as charcoal bamboo. Now this actually isn't a bamboo fabric. This is heavily marketed in China as charcoal bamboo because it sells better and people think they are getting a bamboo fabric. But essentially what happens in the manufacturing process, the way these synthetic materials are made is they are polymers. So they are broken down and then they're shot through small holes which make the threads, and this is then woven into fabric. So what they do with the charcoal bamboo is, which is actually charcoal, I tend to call it charcoal fleece and charcoal microfiber, is they get charcoal from bamboo which has been burnt and they mix it in with the polymer so that it's actually, that's why it has its color. Think of it like a food coloring, but it maintains some of the properties that bamboo gives, things like anti-odor. You tend to get a little, it harbors odors and carries, it sort of tends to take on less smells, bacteria and so forth. I found that this worked best with my children because they had sensitive skin, and I found that the actual synthetic fabrics, I used to get rashes. So it all just depends on what works best for you. But their absorbency is about on par with things like your microfibers. So what you have to watch there is how many layers they are giving you. Any less than 3 layers, you're not going to get a whole lot of absorbency. They work really well at drawing away liquid. However, they are not meant to carry a lot of liquid. So you're not going to get a huge amount of absorbency out of them. It just means that you're simply going to be changing a little bit more often. And that's the other thing, that's the difference between disposables and cloth nappies, is you can't leave a cloth nappy on for 12 hours except for overnight when you're boosting, and generally the child's intake of things like fluids and solids is a lot less, so you can actually use your nappy or stuff your nappy in such a way that it will last you the whole night, so they can be used for nights. Okay, back to fabrics. Okay, the next one I will show you is what's called a terry. Okay, this is a bamboo cotton terry breast pad, which I used to sell these back in Australia. Now these are also these are a fabric blend, but the other thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about bamboo is that bamboo isn't actually a natural fabric. Bamboo is, it starts out as, well, it's an easily grown grass. It's basically a grass. And what happens is, you all know what bamboo is. It's made into many, many different things, but it is broken down into like a cellulose pulp. And this, like the synthetic fabrics, and that's a chemical process. So it's broken down with an acid, and it's shot through those little holes to make the threads, which is then woven into fabric. Now, bamboo, you will never see 100% bamboo unless it is in things like those disposable liners, or things you see it in baby cloth, not cloth wipes, but disposable wipes. You'll see 100% bamboo. And if you look at that, the fibers are actually, they're easily broken down. You'll just have to excuse the interruption with my small children trying to break down the door while I do this. It actually breaks down very easily. This is the really beneficial thing about bamboo. However, that does not lend any strength to fabrics. So when you have bamboo in a fabric, it has to be woven together with another fabric, whether it's polyester, which is essentially plastic. That's when I was talking about polymers, that's a plastic, or it's woven together with hemp or cotton. And that gives it its strength and durability. So you will find, even if it's been marketed at you as 100% bamboo, that it is not. Especially with the terries, you'll often find it's 80% bamboo and 20% polyester. But just so you actually know what you're really getting. Okay, then you come up to some of the more heavyweight fabrics, which are your blends of fleece. Okay, bamboo, this is a bamboo cotton fleece, and in a much heavyweight, these have a much higher absorbency capacity. The problem is with bamboo fleeces is that they take a lot longer to draw liquid away from things. So you'll often find there's smart inserts actually have a layer of microfiber and then maybe several layers of fleece underneath, and you can actually do this at home by making sure your heavy fleeces, your bamboo cotton fleeces, are underneath your microfiber. If you're stacking up your inserts, you might put them on top like this, so you've got a microfiber, that's not a microfiber on top that draws away the liquid quickly, and it gives the fleece underneath a little bit, it gives it time to actually absorb the liquid. So this is like your heavy duty, holds a lot of liquid but needs time because the fibers are tightly woven together. The other thing to note with your fleeces is that they will take time to build up absorbency. They're very, very tightly woven together, and the fabric itself actually needs time to open up. This will usually happen after about 4 or 5 washes, but if you've got heavyweight fabric inserts, you can actually charge them by soaking them overnight in a pail of cold water, just overnight, and it will give them a boost. But you don't need to worry if you're changing a little bit more frequently on those first 4 or 5 times. They get better as time goes on. The only one that I don't actually have with me, which is a natural fabric, along with cotton, is hemp. Now, hemp is one of your best absorbency fabrics. Hemp and cotton together, they're like almost a beige color. So they're sort of like a color like this. They've got a very different texture to this. I actually haven't got one on hand. I didn't, for my children, I didn't use hemp, even though it's actually an incredibly good material, very sustainable, very absorbent. It doesn't have the same softness that bamboo does, and it can get a little bit stiff, which, you know, giving it a good shake, a good rub, hit it on something, it will soften up for you, and it's usually no problem, but it has a really high absorbency rate, and there are lots of mums who love it. So you've got lots of different fabric choices there. And as well, the other thing to consider is they can tend to get a little bit smelly, so you've got to make sure your washing routine is really up to scratch there. And you know, smells really go for across the board in terms of fabrics. Bamboo fabrics tend to smell a little bit less. However, that doesn't mean that shouldn't deter anyone, because it all goes down to your washing machine. So any of these fabrics will function exactly the way they're supposed to if they are washed correctly. which is not actually such a big deal when it comes to babies because you already have a lot of washing anyway. And a small tweak to your routine, you can wash everything all together. It's not a big deal. So I hope I've given you a little bit of insight into fabrics and how they work. Know that you can mix and match your inserts in your nappies depending on the type of nappy that you buy. So especially in pockets, these tend to be the most versatile. You can use it in that way. But I'm not here to talk to you about how nappies work. We've probably got lots of little videos in the work. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what goes into fabrics, and hope that you can be more informed in your decision making when choosing nappies. So I hope that has helped anyone. Please feel free to throw me any questions if I've missed anything. Hopefully I've covered everything. And we look forward to being able to support you in making the switch. Okay, yes.